Bill Sundstrom and his two buddies, Dan and Buck, they were young men when this story occurred. And so they decided to go on a hiking trip for 7 days, and they went to the Porcupine Mountains in northern Michigan. Now, as I said, they were young, they were carefree men, so they were really looking forward to this trip, and they were kind of roughing it. But no matter, they were just excited. They just enjoyed chatting about God and life with people they met. And at night, they didn't have a tent. They didn't have much money. So what they did is they brought this plastic, almost like a tarp. It was just this plastic piece. And they made like a little lean-to to sleep under at night. Well, it was nearing the end of their 7-day trip when they realized they ran out of food. They did not ration it quite that well towards the end, but they really weren't worried about it. They had brought their fishing gear. They enjoyed doing so, so they thought, well, we'll just go fish. However, where they would have to fish, it wasn't where they were camped. So they picked up all their things, including the little lean-to they had made, and they set up camp elsewhere. They pitched that little lean-to near Lake Superior. Now, when they went out fishing, they didn't have much luck. All they caught were called suckers, which basically are bony fish that are generally considered inedible. But these 3 guys, they were starving, so they did not care. They cleaned them up and ate them anyway. When they were done, they gathered all the bones of the fish and they threw them in the woods nearby to where they were camped. Later that night, all 3 were sitting around their campfire, just chatting, hanging out. All of a sudden, they hear this loud crashing sound nearby in the woods. And at first, they kind of were like, well, hopefully it's squirrels. But one of the guys, Buck, he knew better. He was like, oh no, that's way too loud and too large to be a squirrel. And that's when the 3 young men recalled speaking to the ranger. And he had warned them at the beginning of the trip to be on the lookout for bears. Well, after that recollection, Bill starts to worry. He's really scared. He's not feeling safe. He knew that they were out in the open. They were exposed. They didn't even have a tent to take shelter in and zip up. At the very least, all they had was this little lean-to to sleep under. Scared is an understatement. Well, Dan, he suggests, hey guys, let's just pray about it. Now, Bill agreed. Sure, okay. Bill was a new Christian, so he kind of thought, we can pray, but is this really the type of situation that God can handle or wants to handle? Well, Dan starts to pray. They all bow their heads, they start praying, and Dan, he flat out prays. He said, Lord, if this is a bear, we ask that you send it elsewhere, anywhere away from us. Surprisingly enough, all 3 guys got sleep that night. They slept well, peacefully, safely, right there under the lean-to. And when they woke in the morning, they found about 100 yards away fresh bear droppings. It turns out there were 2 couples not far from where these guys were camped. The 2 couples had tents set up about another 100 yards away on the opposite side of where these bear droppings were found. So the 3 men speak to these couples, and it turns out they cowered in their tents all night long, scared to death because they knew a bear was in their camp. They even watched the bear rip open their packs, eat their food, rummage through everything. And not only did the bear eat all their food and rip up their things, apparently the couple told the men that the bear, it ate 40 hits of speed. That sounds like quite a lot. It also turns out Bill, Dan, and Buck, where their lean-to was camped, it was smack dab in the middle, in between where these couples were and the bear droppings. So in other words, the bear would have had to travel through their camp in the middle of the night to get from one place to the other. Bill, he says he was in awe. He was just completely in shock that, oh my goodness, God actually answered that prayer. And he made sure the bear didn't harm them, that it was elsewhere, all of it. And then Bill says in the story, he says, that day too, God must have really wanted to drive his point home, because about an hour after all this discovery in the morning, the men want to start a fire. So Buck goes down to the shoreline to gather some driftwood up for the fire. He finds some, picks it all up, walks it back, and they start the fire, and he's about to throw one particular log on when Dan says, "Whoa, wait, stop, wait a minute. There's something written on that one." So Dan grabs it. He dusts it off, brushes it, cleans it up a little bit so he can see better. And it says, simply, "God answers prayers." The end. Can you believe that? What a story. It just goes to show you that, no, God always wants to hear from us. Always talk to him about anything and everything. Pray to him about all things. It doesn't have to be this grand prayer or these grand reasons. It can be simply like, "Lord, I need you. I'm scared. I think there's a bear." Just a really cool story. I hope it was a blessing to you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting, always liking, sharing, and commenting. I hope you have an incredible week, and I'm going to see you next time.